Greetings. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also wanted to note this is a copyrighted broadcast and one of our first out of the studio lives in quite a while. Today we're at the Tysons Corner facility for Tesla in McLean, Virginia. And this is kind of a home base for us. And so this show isn't necessarily laser focused like we would like, but it's sometimes kind of nice to go out and see what there is and sort of make some inferences from what we're seeing. So basically, what I think I'm going to do is start out. There's a process we use for figuring out where we are in the service facility. The first idea that I like to do is I will actually do a routine where I will go out and just drive the parking lot. And so the structure of most of the service facilities is the same. All the vehicles you're seeing to my left currently are primarily vehicles that are owned and are in for service. So that's, if you will, the right side of the building, and let's say it's a square. I just saw a sign that says new vehicle pickup, and so here you're seeing sort of new vehicles. And the biggest thing I'm noticing is that there's all this signage for new vehicles, but you notice how you're not seeing any new vehicles. I'm actually going to do a loop around the building, and then I'm going to come back and perhaps take a closer look at what we're seeing here. So in general, what's interesting about the space, particularly if you look at our older shows from this facility, is that the whole feel is that we have about half the number of vehicles that we usually have out here. A big part of that is the fact that, our first time here was about 4 years ago. And so we've done many drive-throughs of this facility. And we have video that we've shown of some of our facility visits over time. And so right now it's a Sunday morning at 9 in the morning. It's often a great time to get in, get some video, and exit. And no one is the wiser, and we don't get them in the folks in trouble. So I think what I'm going to do is when I come back around again, the doors are actually closed. Usually you can just look in and get a feel for the inventory that's brand new that is waiting for customers. The delivery area has 1 or 2 cars in it. And inside we have what we'd expect is, I see a Model Y in the back and looks like a Model 3, so there are 2 cars inside. You see where it says test drive vehicles there. One of the weird things that I'm seeing is that usually there's at least, there's a large number, call it 5, maybe as many as 10 test drive vehicles out here. And basically, it looks like they sold a lot of them because the test drive vehicles sit up front, and then these will be vehicles that are being repaired, along with perhaps vehicles that, if you're an X or a top of the line S, they will actually have loaner cars that are Teslas, and those will be the second sitting area. So I actually drove around this morning just to get a feel for what I was seeing, and then my goal was to come back through again and make some observations. So the first thing I wanted to note that I noticed here was, if you'll look, you'll notice that there aren't a lot of cars. This area I'm driving by right now is mostly, if not right now, it's all service vehicles. But what used to happen was there'd be as many as 100, 120 cars here, And so the numbers are affected by the fact that they opened a second service facility, I believe in Chantilly, Virginia. And so therefore half the traffic that would have been here is now gone. So in general, what would happen with the lot is that if, they would end up with a large number of vehicles out here that have not been sold, and it's a real battle to sort of move everyone through quickly. And as you can see, we're real short on Model Ys, got some Model 3s sitting around, really no Model X's or S's, if you will, outdoors. So one of my favorite things I like to look at here is this. So as you know, Tesla has a direct-to-you service, and they have different vehicles for getting that done. The reason why they did a Model S is that when you go into parking garages at companies or condo complexes, another service vehicle, when you go to parking garages at different places, you can't really bring in large vehicles. So by using a Model S and already knowing what the service is that's being done, it gives you a better feel for why it is they're doing a Model S. I like that car because the contrast of the red lettering with the white car looks really, really cool. We're going by, there's a workout facility here that's right next to it. So it looks like our opening time today is at around 10, and I'm thinking that right now I want to get a quick peek at inventory levels, and the way I can do that is both looking at type of vehicles, colors chosen by customers, and number of vehicles that are around and available. We just finished the real beginning of the quarter push, and so now they're working at a regular pace and not trying to break their necks. So we're just going to take a quick peek in here. So as you can see, a lot of room inside the facility. A lot of white cars, as you can also see. From what I've saw in there, it looks like we have approximately 20 cars sitting in that storage space. Of them, 90% of them are Model 3s. Half of them are white in color. And, the question is, there's this contrasting thing, which is, if you've seen other videos we've done, the quality of the data, I think, is mediocre, because it's hard to tell, are we seeing a lot of cars or a little cars? And the reason it's hard to tell is that how do you look at the numbers when we've split the cars that are being dealt with between two locations? So yeah, we're seeing vehicles, but are we really seeing, it's harder to get a representation of how this looks over time in the contrast. So in this space here, we're seeing a lot of materials that are in drop-off mode, and we're seeing just a few cars. So as I'm looking through our storage facilities that in the past would be actually full, there are very few cars here. I think that all of the discussions of the shortages of Teslas right now, it's valid. As I look through the facility, this sucker has been picked clean. This is the last storage facility for vehicles that might be going out. And I'm going to just take a quick look in here and see what we see. Wow. Man, this place is... So as I just said, this place has been picked absolutely clean. And it's, I'd have to say, if you look at the dearth of cars, you'd have to say company's doing great. One other data point I wanted to pop in is just the fact that we spoke with one of our Tesla buddies trying to order a Plaid Model X, and not available until middle of next year. So the dearth of vehicles we're seeing is a reflection of the fact that Tesla's doing a great job, and there ain't no cars to be had right now. I'm seeing one of our viewers actually mention that, pretty much used cars for Tesla in Europe, and particularly London, where they're having those fuel problems, they're charging almost a new car price for a used vehicle. So that's the situation. So I wanted to stop here for a couple of minutes. As you can see out my left here, we do have kind of a up on a hill view back on the service facility, and therefore you can kind of see some cars here as we're talking. So in general, I would say, hey, Tesla's doing great. They're making as many cars as they can. They're having a hard time keeping up with demand, and I think it's great given that it's a very high cost vehicle. There are also all these challenges when it comes to chips and other problems that are being well managed. So overall, I would say every metric one can think of: how is the backlog of the company? What's going on with production? It's increasing nicely. Backlog is pushing into next year for a fairly expensive vehicle. How is management doing in key customer service thinking points? I say they're doing very well. I have read about some issues, but nothing mega. I ran into something yesterday that I wanted to introduce as a survey question for you today, and that is that there's a Model 3 owner on one of the sites that I follow on Facebook, and they're getting 7,000 miles in range on their tires. He didn't say what kind of tire it was, but I'm assuming that he's using the factory norm, if you will. So the trivia question, or the question I'd like to ask you today is, what kind of tires are you running, and what kind of range are you? I just saw a Chevy Bolt, as you could see, make that turn. So the Bolt driver behind me there is sort of driving through to take a look at Model 3s. So the question is, what kind of tires are you using on your Tesla, and how much are you getting in terms of range? One guy went bald after only 7,000 miles. Again, I think it's the original equipment with their Goodyears, I believe. But the question is, what's your tire range, and what type of tires do you have on the car, and how does that compare with what you were getting on your regular vehicle? 7,000 is clearly somebody, if he has bald tires that quickly, it's clear that he's actually doing a lot of very serious driving, acceleration, etc. And so, number one, what kind of range are you getting on your tires? Number two, what kind of tires do you have? And number three, is it getting better or worse over time? I would think that if you're a mellow driver, you should be getting 40,000 miles on those things, unless you have a very heavy car like a Model X. But I would really think that'd be helpful, because there are a lot of people that will perhaps make their decision on tire choices based on the answer that you provide to that question. So again, what kind of range are you getting on the tires? and what brand are you using, and are you getting better from one brand than the other. The other note that I would make based on this information is that one of the respondents to that string in Facebook was saying that he's getting 7,000 miles on the front tires, and on the rears he's getting about 15,000 miles. So that might also be a question: are you getting about the same wear, front and rear? And one of the suggestions was the difference between those two tires could be attributed to the fact that they need to be rotated, and whoever is getting those unusual wear patterns of 7,000 in front, 15,000 in rear should actually be doing rotations and may not be, and therefore that's why they're having that issue. So this is kind of turning into a, what are you experiencing relative to tires situation. So in general, as you saw, we've sort of gotten a chance to look through the service facility. It's the 10th now. We're 10 days into the quarter, and there's a lot of logic to why it's naked here. Usually at the beginning of the quarter, the first 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, the focus is production of vehicles that'll be going out of country or very long distances. Once we get to towards the middle of the quarter, that's when the vehicles that are being shipped out of country, they start to cut back on that production and start producing more cars that would stay inside the United States. And so the fact that it's kind of naked out here can be attributed to, number one, great sales and the push at the end of the quarter, and number two, the fact that the production focus right now is exporting vehicles that will be exported for the next 2 to 6 weeks, and then we start seeing, a larger. They'll start keeping the production within the United States from there. So that's why we're experiencing the numbers we're seeing. This is the end of our formal discussion of what's going on with Tesla. We're moving on to our health tips next. Just a reminder, we do have a few SpaceX shares. If there's interest, you can drop us an email below or hit us on Facebook in a private message. Also wanted to encourage you to consider our focus health tip of the day: no more than once a week fried foods, because your body tends to just store that stuff, and it becomes hazardous to your health if you're doing more than once a week with those kind of foods. We have a bunch of tips there. I really like the don't go to bed within 4 hours, minimum 2 hours suggestion from one of our doctors from Louisville, and it's worked great for me, and I think you'll find it helpful in your health process as well. At any rate, that's our show for today. Look forward to your comments. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss German, au revoir French, Lehitro Hebrew, Choda Hafiz Farsi, Strazuche Russian, Ni hao ma Chinese, Konbanwa Japanese, Hey do Swedish, and G'day our friends in Australia, Namaste our friends in India, and in Jamaica we say, Nuff respect, walk good man. Have a great day. Bye for now. Thanks once again for joining us.